Hey, Tommy.
Hey, Kevin, how are you?
I was fine until I saw the crown molding, my least favorite project.
Everybody panics when you hear crown molding.
Listen, when the tip for getting it right is upside down and backwards, you know something's wrong.
But that's a good tip.
It is a good tip, and I bet you got another tip for me now. What's the
I
situation?
have a different tip. I've got a lot of questions of people who say, well, you know, I live in a cape or I live in a gambrel, and you have that sloped roof up on the second story that's sticking into my bedroom like this.
So a little cheek wall that represents a dormer.
Flat ceiling, you have a gable end out there, but this rafter that runs down for aesthetics outside the building, they want to wrap a crown molding around that, and it can be difficult. All right, so let's think about the crown molding that wraps around the room. The big deal is holding it in the right orientation so that it sits flat on the roof and flat on the ceiling. Now I'm here at the cheek wall. What am I going to do here?
Because we're no longer sort of at that regular flat wall, flat ceiling, I don't suppose you could put a compound on a compound cutter.
You could, but it just won't work. All right, so what a lot of people will do is they'll take this molding that comes out from the wall and they'll make a transition right here. So they'll miter this corner and create a little return like this, okay? So now that return ends there, and this molding is going fine, but then you've got to then start up on the wall that's flat. So you cut the pitch of the roof to follow the crown molding, and you still see a part of this wall right here.
And I mean, I know my eye goes to that, so it must drive you crazy to see it. Yeah.
I mean, the easiest way to fool the eye is take a piece of tape and run it across here and paint this part of the ceiling and the roof to match the color of the crown molding.
We'll leave the painting tomorrow. Yeah. We'll leave the crown molding to you.
It works, but it's not right.
So the first thing I'm thinking is, why not just take a traditional outside corner, basically, you know, with a flat roof, flat ceiling in mind, bring it up, and just set it there and be like, okay, we're good.
That's good, but what do you see the problem? I see a big problem.
All right, well, push it in a little bit. You can't push it in far enough.
But that problem can be magnified with a shallower pitch, and it can be lessened with a steeper pitch.
So you got that little sort of mouse hole right there. Is there a way to fix that, or are we?
Absolutely. First of all, I always like to make up a scrap piece that like this that we're holding up there, because that allows me to set my molding at the right orientation in both directions.
Which is where we are at right now.
Right. So now I have the space right here that I know I have to fill. I'm going to fill that gap.
With just a little piece that you cut.
Take a little piece, I'm going to find that angle, and to do that I'm just going to use a scrap piece of wood. So take that piece down for 1 second. I take my scrap piece of wood, I'm just going to hold it tight to the ceiling. I'm going to mark the back. All right, that's the pitch of the roof.
Okay.
That's the angle that I'm going to cut also to make that filler.
So that's going to give you the angle for that gap.
That angle right there will fit right in there, and that will fill that space.
How do I get the thickness of that right there? Because it's going to be different if I'm out here versus here versus here.
So this is why my template comes in handy again. It's in there, it's positioned right. I just reach inside and I mark that, okay?
So that's where the wall hits the crown.
That's where the wall hits the crown. So now with my mark right there, I transfer this out here, and I can then measure that, and that filler
from this point to the back of that crown
is a ½ an inch, and it has this degree cut on the back.
So now we have the width and the angle of our filler.
Right, we have everything we need. Once we make the cut with our saw, we'll make a quick cut to show you how to set the saw. And you're going to set the saw, whether it's a table saw or a skill saw. Obviously you'd want to cut this with a table saw, but I have my mark. Okay, so now we have cut that angle, or the pitch for the roof. Now I just need to set the saw. Now, a table saw would be probably the easiest to set, but I'll just show you. It's the same principle. You use the table saw, you put this on the table saw, and you pitch this till that is parallel with the blade, just like that, and that gives us the angle to cut our filler. And what we would do now is measure that width right there.
That's so that ½ inch that we got.
Right. I take that ½ inch, put it on here, rip that down, and I rip it down at that angle.
The one you set on the saw there.
Right. Now, I would recommend ripping that on a table saw. It'd be a lot easier.
Right.
You're going to end up with a filler like this.
So that's our ½ inch right there.
Right, this is the slope of the roof, this is the floor, but I'm going to put that on there like that. Make it even. I'd glue it in place, sand it, and then end up with a piece like this.
So that's been glued already.
Right. So now if we take this piece and we put it up there, we slide it in until it touches the wall, and your molding is returned and filled.
No more little mouse hole right there.
Right. Now the one thing you can do is if this molding is painted, you could paint the filler to match the trim, or you could also paint the filler to match the wall.
Either way, though, you've got that corner right there dressed properly.
And your room is completely wrapped with the crown molding.
Nice. So I got another tip for my crown molding file, which I don't go too often.
I know. Well, you have probably trouble opening that door.
Thank you, Tommy. Thanks for watching. This Old House has got a video for just about every home improvement project, so be sure to check out the others. And if you like what you see, click on the subscribe button to make sure that you get our newest videos right in your feed.